Blog Talk Radio.
You're listening to SOS Radio. Wake up and feed the people.
Good morning and welcome to SOS Radio. We're awake, ready to feed the people. I'm your host, Rodney Powell.
And I'm Changon Yango.
Today's show is called What's the Problem? We'll be talking to Erricka Bridgeford. She'll be joining us, but I'll also be playing a recent interview that I did with her here in Baltimore. And she's a community mediator, so we'll get into some talking about conflict resolution. Definitely call in. Let us know what you think about the show, what you think about what we're talking about. The number to call in is 347-215-9773. And with no further ado, unless Tenga has some major announcements. Do you have any major announcements, Tenga?
Not today. I'm holding off.
Okay. I do want to mention that today's show is our first 1 hour long show. We've only been doing 30 minutes. So this is our first 1 hour long show. So you should applaud, beep your horn. I don't hear anybody beeping their horn. But we're going to get right into this audio, into this interview with Erricka Bridgeford. And then afterwards, we're going to talk to her.
Let's start with where you grew up.
Okay, I'm a West Baltimore girl. I'm proud to be a hood chick. I don't know what people mean when they say it, but I think being a hood chick is some of the best shit that could ever happen to a girl. So I grew up in North Court, and so it's like at the top of North Avenue. If you are on Rosedale and you go left all the way to the bottom, there's North Court on the left and North Avenue on the right. Okay. So it's around the corner. It's like Bloomingdale, Poplar Grove, it's that whole area. Right. So that's where I grew up.
And you said you're proud to be a hood chick, so it gives me some clue as to how you grew up or what you grew up around. But without making any assumptions, what was it like growing up in West Baltimore?
Well, what I loved about it, I was born in 1972, and so we moved there when I was about 2 years old. So though it was low-income housing, it was townhouses, it was very nice. Everybody had their plot of grass, everybody had, took care, grew flowers, and my mother grew vegetables out back, and, so my whole childhood, it wasn't until around middle school when there was something more than winos in the neighborhood. Okay. So growing up, it was just, your neighborhood drunk dude, right. Around the corner at the corner store on Belmont and Bloomingdale. That's what there is. But, I grew up with a sense of community and, all of my neighbors were like my family. Our porch was the porch that everybody hung out on. Okay. Me and all the girls in the neighborhood, we did chairs all the time. We would have chair competitions. Not like we wasn't doing splits and pyramids and shit. We was doing my name is Erricka, all right, I'm coming up good, all right, whatever. Right. And we would just get our little uniforms, which was like a white, we would go up to Charlie Rudo's and get our little white T-shirts with our red names on them and our red gym shorts and white pumpkin seeds, and we got red, white pom-poms, And then we challenged the girls around the Westmont. We had big chair competition on the blacktop. This was, when it snowed outside, everybody was out, on tires and sleds and throwing snowballs and, and so, I think somewhere when I was in middle school, around the dawn of NBA jackets and college jackets, the Georgetown jackets, the Sixers jackets and all of that. And then right around there, all so the kind of tennis shoes you had on became a really like thing people got shot over.
Right, okay.
And that's when we started noticing a difference
In the neighborhood. Okay.
That like people who we all spent the night at each other's houses, something was changing, you know, in life. When you could get shot, one of my friends got killed over a jacket in front of, I believe in front of Walbrook. And like somebody said something about his jacket, and he got smart. Something happened, and he got just shot right there. Like, and he was a little bit older than me, so he was in high school. But like, I was 12 in the 7th grade. That's bizarre. How can you get shot just from getting smart? Like, that's what you do. You get smart with people. Like, this is the hood. You know, like, sarcasm and wit they are signs of intelligence, you know.
So the rules were changing.
The rules were changing about what life meant.
And was that scary?
It was confusing and scary. And it was hard to understand like how it could be happening and how, you know, it made me start questioning like, well, what does God allow? Like, 'cause what is this?
Right.
You know. So I went to Roland Park. And that was another thing, like, so being in the hood, in my neighborhood, like, being smart was a good thing, you know, like, I didn't get teased because I was the smartest girl. I didn't know I was the smartest girl, but now that I'm grown, you know how all the dudes who didn't pay me any mind when we were little, now that I'm grown, everybody trying to holler at me, you know, and so, you know, a part of their spiel was like, yeah, you were the smartest girl in elementary school. I was like, what? I was, you know, but anyway, like, that was a good thing, you know, I was proud of it. So everybody else went to like Calverton and Lamell and, you know, those middle schools, and I went to Roland Park. And so that was different because I would leave my community and I would go to this different world where they were mostly, back then, so this was 1984, they were mostly affluent white kids at Roland Park. And then I would come back home and suddenly there was something about drugs starting to happen, and, you know, some of my friends weren't going to school. Like, they would be out on the corner early in the morning, still there late at night, you know. And later on in the 7th grade, I remember everybody got woke up by gunshots that you could hear them from around the corner. So I jump up and come to my window, and I hear somebody running down the street, and then he's banging on the door of this lady across the street. And he said, Mom, open the door, open the door. And so she won't answer the door. And so we are thinking we know who it is because he's saying, Mom, we know whose child that is. I'm like, damn, he got shot. She not opening the door. Why she not opening the door for her son? Now, the son was constantly getting in trouble. So I'm like, she that tired of him that, like, he got shot and she really not going to open the door. Turned out it wasn't really her son. But the dude who got shot thought that if he knocked on somebody's door saying that he was their son, they would open the door. Well, she didn't open the door. So other people start coming out. Somebody calls 911, probably several people. And so I'm watching all of this from my window. I see him walk down her steps and just lay out on the ground. And then the ambulance get there, and they're like working on him, and I hear him getting, as they're putting him in the ambulance, he said, please don't let me die, please don't let me die. And the next morning I found out he was dead.
Wow.
You know, so like at 12, that's like, you know, like, so I feel like I heard him saying his last words, and they were like begging for his life, and, you know.
This is your neighborhood.
This is my neighborhood.
Which is much different than your experience at school in Roland Park. So what's that transition like? So you go back to school around some people who probably don't understand anything about that.
Anything about it.
Right.
The most that's happening, they doing weird shit like eating weed on the bus.
That doesn't work.
That confused me. I was like, why are you eating weed? Like, so, it was. So in Roland Park, I felt very much, first of all, it was a depressing place. Everything was made out of wood, and so it just felt old and dark. But it was a very, I felt very isolated, you know, because this wasn't stuff that I went to school and talked about, you know, and I felt crazy from the ages of like 12 to 15, just like with the hormones and, you know, like the self-esteem and whatever all of that shit is. And so it was very bizarre. So although like people started dying and drugs came and all of that stuff, I then got a new pride about being in the hood because I realized how much strength and hustle it took to survive the hood.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially it making a huge transition like that, you know. And so to be able to live there and not be afraid, and it made me be able to walk through any hood. Like if I go on the east side, although I think the east side is some bizarre fucking, you know, black hole of
that is some Baltimore stuff right there. I'm not originally from Baltimore, but I will tell you that everybody I interview makes a distinction about whether they're from East Baltimore or West Baltimore.
There is.
As you know.
When you cross we call it the viaduct, when you cross that bridge, it's something totally different happening over there. Right. And I think a lot of it has to do with that when the drug trade, you know, really hit our part of town, a lot of people came from New York. And you know, New York dudes thought that Baltimore was a bunch of wimps, and so they were just going to come down here and take over blocks. A lot of people went back to New York in body bags. So it made New York dudes just implant and live here instead of trying to just come and take over. So there was a New York to Baltimore mentality implanted. You know, they brought their baby mothers with them, and plus they had babies while they were here, and you know, like, and so I know that had a big part to do with, because I didn't feel like it was always like that. You know, there's always some difference in South Baltimore, you know, like, there's always some difference, right, but, like, this huge difference that, like, they seem like a whole different type of people. I think it had something to do with the drugs and the New York and the, you know, all of that stuff, but anyway, because I was from the hood, I could walk through any hood, and it didn't dawn on me to be scared or afraid or anything like that, because I view people in the hood as being the people who protect me. Like, if you are nice to people in the hood, they will make sure your car does not get broken into. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, if you come in acting like you all of that, or you are better than them, or looking down at your nose, they minding their business. Your shit get broken into. Oh, wow, you should have been nice to us when you came around with. You know what I mean? So, like, to me, the hood is one of the places you are most protected if you just come in and act like you got some fucking sense, you know? So I just like all of that about, like, hood mentality. I think it takes wit and strength.
Meeting, bars, have a good omelet. You guys got it?
Yeah.
Got it.
Thank you.
It's an important nuance to talk about, because people who don't know what it means to be in the hood or be from the hood or be around the hood think that it's just a scary place all the time. Right. It's basically war.
Right.
And so to talk about feeling safe and feeling protected and feeling like you're home is an important thing, I think, to talk about.
Yeah, and I think people don't realize that. I'm not saying crime doesn't happen and you can't be minding your business and get robbed, but you can get robbed. Your identity gets stolen by some white dude in another state. If you work in corporate America, and there's all kinds of insider trading and shit going. Like, people get robbed all the time, every day, white-collar crimes and more blue-collar crimes or whatever. And people don't look at it the same way. Like, the war is happening. That's the case that human beings are warring against each other. That shit is happening everywhere. And you are going to get took anyway. It's not like just the hood is where somebody is going to get you. You could get got anyway.
Okay, so that was an interview. The first part of an interview that I did with Erricka Bridgeburg. We were at One World Cafe, so that's all the noise that you heard in the background, and the waitress coming up and all that. I'm a fan of background noise, so I always leave it in there. But I wanted to introduce Erricka, who is a mother of three, a community mediator, interfaith minister, the first mediation trainer to go into the prison, stand-up comedian, as I understand, inspirational speaker.
Is she?
Yeah. Activist against the death penalty and co-host of a radio show called Diva's Dish. Erricka, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. And
Yo,
welcome
wonder
to SonofaSuperHero. So,
Good morning.
so I know both you and Changa are from West Baltimore. I don't know if you guys need to do some type of ritual.
What's going?
Hi, what's going on? I didn't know you were from the West Side too.
Yeah, I mean, Orphan P, baby, what up?
Oh wow, that is some good shit right there. Oh, am I allowed to say bad words on this show?
Sure, we don't have enough listeners for the FCC to care.
Okay. Okay, good.
Plus, they don't know my real address.
Right.
Oh, okay, that's good. All right, well, we straight there.
So, I was reading your bio and trying to pull out, those highlights. You certainly have quite a few things that you've accomplished in your life thus far. And we're going to be talking to you today and Wednesday. But let's just kind of go down the list, if you don't mind.
Okay. Okay.
Let's start. I always start with the parenting piece. You're the mother of three?
I am. I have three teenagers, an 18-year-old girl, 16-year-old son, 14-year-old girl.
And talk about what that's been like, raising raising kids here in Baltimore, but also right now having three teenagers. That's pretty major.
It really is, and I mean, I would love for it to sound a lot more exciting than what I'm about to say, but my experience is that like I'm really blessed with really good kids. Like the most I fuss about are grades and chores. Is the house clean when I get home. But other than that, they really. And I wasn't always a good mother. I need to start off by saying that. And I don't think women feel like they're just supposed to say that out loud. But not everybody is a good mother. Like, it's not something that you just wake up and you're like, oh, yay, motherhood. Like, I got pregnant with my first child when I was 22. I was scared crapless. I was convinced that I was going to destroy her and that, she was definitely going to go see Oprah and talk all types of shit about me one day. And I spent about 7 years of my motherhood just looking at them like, who are these people? I don't even know these little motherfuckers. Like, what are they doing here, And in all of that, I was working hard. I was trying to provide for them. I was trying to set a good example. I never brought men around them that they didn't know unless they, just family members and stuff like that. But I never brought men I was dating around them. I spent time with them as much as I could. But because I was working so much, I felt like I never had enough. That's what I spent the beginning of my motherhood, feeling like I wasn't enough. I didn't have enough time, money, energy, all of that. And so I made a big deal out of holidays and birthdays and things like that because I felt like maybe, on a regular, everyday basis, they weren't getting enough of me because I didn't feel like I was enough in the first place. And as they got older, I learned everything, I'm still learning, but I really got a lot clearer about everything that I actually am and, like that I whether I like it or not, I really am abundant and I'm great and wonderful and all of that. And so I became a different person and it made me become a way better mother, just way more connected to my kids. I think because I saw people die when I was younger, I also was afraid to get too closely attached to them because anything could happen. I was definitely afraid of having a son And then I had a son. You know, I was like, I don't want to raise a black man in America. Like, who wants to do that shit? And, you know, I had to change my mentality about what raising children meant, what being a mother was about. And I know people have really bad ideas about being your children's friends, but I'm here to tell you my children are not pregnant at an early age, which I don't think is a bad thing. My mother was 16 when she had me, so every time people talk shit about teenage pregnancy, I go off because I'm the product of teenage pregnancy, and we all turned out just fine. But, you know, none of my girls aren't pregnant. My son is not selling drugs. Nobody's bringing guns and drugs into my home. They're good people, you know. And so, I know that it is because I raised them like I was not in control of them. Like they were individual beings who were going to make their own decisions. It's my job to be their life coach. It's my job to be the first person they come to. The first person you go to is not the person who punishes you. The first person you go to is your friend. And so I knew that when they had really, like when my oldest daughter was about 14, she came to tell me she was bi. She wouldn't have told me that. She wouldn't have told me when she was ready to have sex. She wouldn't have told me when she wanted to masturbate. She wouldn't have told me any of that. She would have been going to get her information from her little raggedy girlfriends who didn't know what they were talking about. So I think that we have a good relationship now because I decided that I was their friend. I am their mother, but I don't own them. I don't control them. They belong to themselves. They belong to the universe. And it's my job to help them learn how to make really good decisions. And I feel like I can do that best if I'm the first person they come to when they have questions or when they are afraid or when they are in trouble. And they respect me because of that. You know, so I don't get disrespected. I think people think, oh, no, I can't be your friend. You're going to respect me. Well, you respect your best friend. You don't treat your best friend like shit. And so my children have the utmost respect for me. They are very protective of me. My son is in warrior training, so now he is, you know, he won't leave me anywhere we go. He waits for me. You know, like they are very respectful of me. They treat me like I am a queen, although I never treated them like I ruled over them. So that's my whole take on motherhood.
I think that's a pretty deep point about them owning themselves and becoming them, you know, who they are, and that you don't own them. I think a lot of us, we don't get that message about being a parent. It's more enforcing our will over them, and certainly
right, and it's mostly fear.
Right, certainly, kids growing up need guidelines and rules and things like that, but that doesn't mean that they have to become us or they have to think everything that we think.
Right.
So I think that's a pretty deep understanding. How much mediation have you had to do raising teenagers in your own home?
You know, what's funny is two of my children got trained. The two girls got trained to be mediators when they were 11 and 12. So, and my children have always, even when I felt like I wasn't doing a great job as a mom, I always brought them with me when I had really long days. So they sat in a lot of mediation trainings, and the particular model of mediation that I use and train in is all about non-judgment. And so they have been constantly hearing these concrete skills about how to recognize your judgments and opinions, how dangerous they are when communicating with other people, and how to move them aside to really work on understanding other people who piss you off even. And so they definitely have their little arguments. And, you know, my son feels like it's his job to agitate the girls because that's what brothers do. And, you know, the oldest one, you know, and I categorize my children as like cable stations. So my oldest daughter is like BET and MTV. She is definitely like, we were in the city before we moved to the county. So she still got all of the city girl in it. So she's my BET child. My son is like the Discovery Channel, all this science, dweeby shit. And my youngest daughter is like Nickelodeon and Disney or some shit. So they definitely argue and have their differences of opinion. And underneath of all of it, they are very aware that, like, they are one unit. And so the love is what pervades all of that. So when I am going to, like, and they can tell if I'm about to do something that's mediation-like, and so they be like, don't keep doing that shit on us, you know. So I'll do it sometimes just to make them laugh. But then they'll go, yeah, but that's true, though, because da-da-da-da-da, and it will, like, unfold some stuff. So once in a blue moon, I'll whip out, you know, some mediation skills on their edges, but most of the time they, honestly, to be perfectly honest with you, like, I don't feel like I raised my children. I feel like they did a whole bunch of raising themselves. And my oldest daughter, like, she kind of shares motherhood with me because she was with me first, and she, you know, she helped hold things down when I'm not home. And so, you know, like, they feel accountable to one another. And what I always said to them was, even if you are mad and you don't like who's telling you, you always do what's right. If somebody is telling you the right thing, that's what you need to listen to, whether you like what they're saying or not. So I really haven't had to do a lot of stepping in and refereeing or mediating or anything, because even when they get mad at each other, somebody will say, is she telling you the right thing? Well, shut up and do the right thing, you know, and then they'll do the right thing, with, you know, begrudgingly, but they'll do it. So,
right. Yeah. I want to get into the next part of our interview, and then we'll talk about a few more of the things on your long list of accomplishments.
Okay.
So let's fast forward. That's some of your beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
Who is Erricka now? Who am I sitting across from?
I'm actually really excited about who I am, like, and just where I am right now. My mother kept telling me, when you turn 40, just call me. Because there's, like, some freedom and some, like, don't give a shit about what people think. And, like, just, like, being more okay to find out who you are, kinds of stuff. And I found that to be very true. So right now I'm like cracking wide open. I feel like there is so much that I know and can articulate, and I've been articulating for years, and I'm at a place in my life now where I actually function in a lot of shit that I know, and I can see how it changes my life. And then that leads me to learning and knowing more stuff that's cracking me open more, you know. So I'm like, by the time I'm 60, you know, nobody's gonna be able to fuck with me, basically, you know, like, you know, and so, and everybody gonna be able to fuck with me, you know, like, all at the same time, because, like, this the freedom that I feel, the joy that I wake up with every day, and even when days are hard, I'm very aware of peace inside of me. And that's not something I'm used to. You know, I'm used to, if you sad, you're depressed. If you're happy, you're happy. Right. You know, but now, like, there's a constant peace that is, like, kind of unshakable inside me that I'm always aware of, even when I'm going through hard stuff.
So there's a transition going on inside. You talked about the transition when you were younger in your neighborhood, and with that, how that affected you. What kinds of things are changing in terms of your belief system and the way you view the world, you know, now?
Well, the biggest, I would say the first transition was the view of myself, like just how I view my physical body. I don't want to say myself, my physical body. Okay. So because I was born with one hand, there were transitions that happened with that. So like when I was little, my parents and my neighborhood and my school, you know, I was special and wonderful and great, and I thought having one hand was the best shit in the world. I didn't know why people had all these extra fingers they didn't even need. You know, like it was like whatever. Then, you know, something about middle school, it wasn't that same way, because, you know, teenage years, it's about, right, who's the slickest, and, you know, one hand wasn't the slick shit, you know. And so I went through, like, dudes would think I was cute and see me from afar and get close to me and realize I had one hand and then talk to my friend and say, shit like that, right? So I would say, like, throughout my teenage years and even into my early 20s, I defined myself based on people's perception of me having one hand. So it made me think that I didn't like having one hand. So I forgot how happy and joyful I was about my one hand all my childhood and then it dawned on me, it's not that I don't like having one hand, I don't like people's reaction to it and how that makes me feel.
Right.
So I remember reading this scripture. I don't know where it is because, I like the Bible, but not in the way most people do. So I was reading this scripture in my late 20s where the disciples were asking Jesus, like there was some man who was blind and they were asking him why was he blind? Did he do something in his past life that he passed for? Did his parents do something? Like, what's the problem? So first of all, it dawned on me that Jesus must have believed in reincarnation and so did all his disciples because he didn't say, what are you talking about? Why would he, so people never speak on that, but that's another talk show. But the answer that he gave them was, it wasn't any of those things, that it was to glorify God. And I was like, what? He was blind to glorify God? And I was like, fuck, I got a birth defect. That must be to glorify God, right? So it made me start thinking about it differently, that because I have one hand, people are automatically going to be looking at me, and I'm always going to be an example of what God meant. No matter how broken you look or feel, that you are always whole, you are always complete. So that started changing. And then when I started seeing myself differently, I noticed that what I attracted were people who treated me differently. So it went from, a part of it is we all grew up, and so men now don't give a shit. Well, they like, you got a fat ass, I don't care how many fingers you have. Like, you smart, you cute, like, whatever about the fingers. That's a part of it, but beyond that, I noticed that there aren't as many, I don't attract as many situations where people are pitying me. I attract more situations where people's reaction is, wait a minute, I didn't even realize you had one hand because I just saw this bright bubble first.
The rest of it, yeah.
Right, and people encouraging me to just be happy in my skin because them watching me made them check themselves about their insecurities about their body. So me changing the way I view my physical body changed a lot of the experiences I was having, which made me think about the power of my mind, and the power of my own thought and my own perception. That it's not that the world that I'm looking at, is happening outside of me, that the world that I'm looking at is based on what I already perceive inside, and then that's the world I'm going to see, so...
I think one of the deepest points in there that really has stuck with me is you said, it's not that I didn't like having one hand. I didn't like people's reaction to me having one hand.
Yeah.
Explain a little bit about that.
Well, you can easily think that you are how people view you. So, like, people look at you and they automatically say you can't do things. If enough people say it, it's something in you that might, we live in a world where we go, oh, the odds, what most is happening must be what's real. And so if you experience people, every time you leave your house, people are staring at you. Every time you meet new people, you know the moment when they notice you had one hand because something in their eyes changed. Every time you go out, people are, trying to help you with things while you out. I'm at the supermarket and people are trying to help me with, the little, where you're trying to get fruits and vegetables and you open those little plastic bags and put the fruits and vegetables in. Like, everybody fumbles with those things. But suddenly 3 motherfuckers running over to help me open. I'm like,
I can't open them at all. I would be no help.
That's what I'm saying. Yes. So when that kind of thing happens over and over and over again, you don't necessarily realize that it's not you. That's people and their problem. because it's coming at you, you think, I'm the common denominator in all of these reactions, so it must be me. And it took me a while to realize that the inside of me, I didn't feel ashamed. I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel like there was something wrong with me. But I constantly felt the burden of everybody else's pity and of everybody else's discomfort. I think most people, they just feel uncomfortable when they are around me because it's not something that you see every day. And people feel like, oh, she looks broken, she must need help, I'm supposed to do something. And so all that plays out in the way people would treat me. So it took a while for me to realize all of that shit belongs to you. Your perception that I'm broken, I know I'm not broken. I was tying my shoe at 3 years old. So I know physically even I'm not broken. And inside, I definitely know I'm not broken, because I'm nice and I'm smart and I have a good head on my shoulders. I believe, I need to work on this, but I think average intelligence is actually not really smart, so I constantly feel like I'm surrounded by idiots a lot of the time. So I'm like, I know that there's not really anything wrong with me, but it took me a while to realize, oh, it's not inside of me, it's outside of me that bothers me. And it's all of this stuff coming from other people. And then, but it still meant I had to heal what I had let other people's perceptions do inside of me. Because now inside of me, I really did walk around trying to make sure people didn't see my short arm because I was scared of how people will react to it. And so all I knew was I didn't want people to see it, and I felt ashamed of it. So I went and got a tattoo on it just so I could be like, all right, since y'all looking, here's something fly to look at anyway. And it made me want to show it, Right. So I had to go inside and heal. Oh, I feel good about having one hand. And then once I really felt good about it and found my joy about it again, now I notice that I attract, people still look at me, because that's what people do. But now I perceive their looks differently. I don't get as mad about it. And what I more so notice is the people who are like, damn, I didn't even realize you had one hand.
Right. I have so many questions and so many things I want to talk about that don't have to do with that topic, and it's because you're,
okay.
Because you just, there's so much light coming from you. But let me take a couple callers first before, I take up all the time. Welcome to SOS Radio. I'm speaking to you.
This is Desiree.
Hey, Desiree.
Hey, Rodney. How are you?
I'm all right. Did you have a question for Ericka or something to add?
I'm not necessarily sure I had a question. I caught her a little bit after she started. I want to say how much, I can admire your stance and the change that you made in your life about not really caring about what other people are saying and understanding that God made you that way for a reason. And
right.
You really are most likely more of an example to more people than you could even imagine because they're insecure about the stuff you can't see versus the stuff that you can see. So I just want to give, kudos to you for how you're actually infecting along with affecting those around you. No matter what you think or believe, you are having a greater impact than some people. As you say, you read the Bible, but not like most. For those who think they really read the Bible, you probably have more of an impact than they do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Desiree.
You're welcome.
Wow.
I'm going to take one more caller, and then we'll get back into the conversation.
Okay.
Welcome to SOS Radio. Good morning. Who am I speaking to? Hello.
Morning.
Good morning. Who am I speaking to?
This is Michael Freeman.
How you doing, Michael Freeman? You had a question for Ericka or a comment?
Not so much a question, more of a comment. Applaud you for being who you are and not caring so much anymore about what other people think.
Wow, thank you.
I want to see the fly tattoo. That's what I want to see. I love that. I love your energy, your light, your shining. And I want to say just keep doing your thing and don't worry about anything else. Don't worry about what anything or anybody has to say. You keep doing you,
Thank
okay?
you so much. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you for your call.
No problem.
So, yeah, like I said, I definitely want to get beyond that topic because it's so, not that it's not important. I know it's a part of your story, but there's just so much about you that I've been reading and I've experienced. The first time I met you was actually at the school I was a director at, Connections, and you came to do a workshop, and you just had the attention of the students and the staff from beginning to end, from like the second sentence all the way through, and I think that's just a testament to your light. But
thank you so much.
But I see on your bio that you are an interfaith minister. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I just, I don't even know where to start, so I'm going to try to make it brief. Okay, so just becoming a minister, I believe that we all minister to one another. And I know that in my own journey, like that's our role. We're supposed to constantly be expressions of the whole, expressions of God, expressions of the all, whatever they call it. And today, as I was driving, I looked up the word expression because it just dawned on me. And it means like the process of making known one's thoughts or feelings. So like we are supposed to be the way God makes known all thoughts and feelings, everything that's good and perfect. So I think we're supposed to be ministering to each other all the time. In my own journey, I don't take ownership for something until I get the role and responsibility of it. So when I first became a mediator, people kept saying, no, you should be a trainer. I'm telling you. So I was like, man, I ain't being no damn trainer. But it was in me. It was clearly what was good for me. It was clearly what I'm good at. But until I got the title training director, then I took on the responsibilities of a training director, and I let all of what being a trainer and teaching other people really meant. Same thing with ministering. Like I had this concept in my mind, wow, my voice, people really listen to things that I say and the way I'm able to articulate spiritual, unseen things. And we do that for each other all the time. In this realm, we happen to call it a minister. But taking on the role of it gave, it just helped me in my physical self to be conscious that that's what I'm supposed to be doing all the time, is ministering to people in my actions, in my thoughts, in my words. And the reason I chose not to be interfaith and not to pick any one is because I believe, just the whole is a very intelligent essence, and knew that in our separation from each other, or belief in separation, that religion was going to be one of the ways we were going to try to hold each other back or prove how separate we were, and it was going to keep us from seeing our true wholeness and how we're just all individual expressions of the whole. And so in all of those religions, love is everywhere. There's not a traditional religion where love is not the main tenet, that you're supposed to love one another and treat one another with love. And so I didn't want to take on one tradition or one religion. I wanted to be open for anybody who needed me and for me to be able to learn from anything that speaks in love. That's what I want to be a part of. So that's why the interfaith piece is there.
And how is that piece? I want to talk about conflict resolution and conflict in general. How does that piece help you with your ability to help people through conflict and in your mediation career?
Well, because the model of mediation I use is called the inclusive model, is based in non-judgment. When I'm mediating, it's as close to unconditional love as I ever come. Because judgment is nothing but condition. You know, like that you look and you decide, oh, no, that's not good and this is better and you should act like this and you shouldn't. Well, because I'm not in your individual journey, I can know that I'm one with you. But at the same time, you are an individual expression. So you're having a journey that I can't necessarily see into. So how can I tell you what's right for you, what's wrong for you, where you should or shouldn't be? I know some of the worst things I've ever done in my life, some of the worst places I've ever been or happened to me made me who I am right now. Those were a lot of my biggest lessons. In my hell is when I found out what I really was. So I can't tell somebody they're not even supposed to be in their hell and acting like an asshole right now. It's my job, but I do know that when people feel loved unconditionally, when they just feel heard, when they just feel understood, there's a power in that because it holds up a mirror to them of what they really are. If I judge you and say you ain't shit, then I'm reflecting not shit back to you. So that's what you see. It was just like me seeing what people thought about me having one hand. If that's a mirror I'm constantly holding up to you that you're not shit, then you believe that about yourself. So I need to hold up something different. If I'm just working on understanding you and making you feel heard, you feel worthy of being understood and heard, and that's a new mirror. It's a new way to perceive yourself, and it helps you look inside to your worth. And then you shift on your own into what might be better for you and what changes you can make. And so for me, love and non-judgment equal one another. So when I'm mediating and I'm not judging people, I'm just making them feel heard, and I watch them shift into seeing their conflict differently, reacting differently to the other person, and then making new kinds of decisions. I didn't really do anything. They found their own power.
So there's this question I've been wanting to ask about your experiences with conflict, and the simple version is the conflict always real? And the reason I ask that is because I had about I'm not going to say I'm still in it, but in a former sense or a formal sense, I was in education for 15 years, right? Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of conflict, either between students, but the conflict I'm really interested in talking about is when parents came in and either had conflict, between each other or with us most of the time. And I did a lot of mediation in that situation. But what I noticed is a lot of times they came in without really having an argument, but they were caught in a pattern that kind of like they were filling out a form. Like, this is I have to come in and act like I have a problem with you, and run down this list of things that's either kind of related or not related at all. And those were the hardest things. Those were the hardest conflicts to really to fix, because there wasn't really a conflict. It was just a way of being, a way of interacting. It was a lot of the work that needed to happen to change that culture. But have you found that?
Yeah, I think that what conflict actually is just a battle of perception.
Right.
And so if I come into work this morning and I say good morning, right, and you halfway say good morning back to me, my perception of that is what causes conflict. It might not be that you really feel some kind of way about me today. You could have just had a bad morning. You could just have a lot of stuff on your mind. It could be 50 million reasons why that's the way you responded to me. But conflict is nothing but my perception of a situation is battling and pushing up against your perception of a situation. And once I have that perception, I take on the energy and characteristics of that perception. So if I think you looked at me or you didn't say good morning, in a way that I wanted you to, then I feel rejected. So I take on the energy of rejection, and I assume that that's what you're doing, and so I treat you as if that's what you're doing. So like our perception is the first thing that then decides how. You're right. It's like you take on this character of this is how I'm supposed to act because it's conflict,
Right.
And so I think, it's not that the conflict is not real. The question is how real are our perceptions? And you never really get a clear understanding of what you perceive until you sit down and have an honest conversation with the person and really find out. You never know what you're looking at when you're dealing with the person until you really know.
Right. Okay.
But we go on and decide that we know anyway, and then that's why we have conflict. Oh, I know why she must be mad about that email last week. Like we decide what it's about.
Which again is a reflection of your own garbage.
Yes, yeah, because you could choose, if somebody doesn't speak to me, I could choose to just look at it like everybody don't have to speak to me just because I say good morning on Chipper and everybody's mad at a Chipper move, So I could proceed to look at it like, at least she said hi, given whatever mood she's in right now. Then I would feel really accepted. Like, damn, that was so good that she took her breath to say good morning back to me. I could look at it like that, and I would never be mad at you.
I'm going to use that because I'm one of those people everybody gets mad at because I don't always speak. I'll admit it because I'm so lost in my head, and to be honest, that just wasn't necessarily the culture where I grew up. But I don't always feel like I have to speak to you every time I see you. Especially if we work in the same place, and people get really mad about that. So from now on, I'm gonna say, fix your perception.
Right. Right. It's your perception of why I'm not speaking that's causing the problem. It's not really because I didn't speak that's the problem. Yeah, that's the truth.
So you've taken your craft into the prison system.
Yes, indeed.
We only have a little bit of time left to talk a little bit about that.
So outside of the prison system, mediation, people who are mediators in Maryland anyway, there's a 40-hour training associated with it. And so generally around the country, if you Google mediation and mediation training in prison, you're going to see there was a 10-hour training, there was an 8-hour training. Those are really conflict management trainings, like they give you the skills to manage conflict. A mediation training, it is not just those skills to manage conflict, it's also giving you a whole process to run conflict through and how to guide that process in a way that people can be empowered to make their own decisions. And that's not something that people have taken into prison and given the same training to inmates as they have to people on the outside. And where I work at Community Mediation Maryland, we believe that we're supposed to be training everybody in the community to learn how to resolve conflicts and to help each other resolve conflicts. One way of doing that is to be a mediator. And we include people inside prisons as our community. And so we look around and go, who isn't getting trained? Who needs these skills? Everybody needs them. So I train lawyers and judges and, people like that. I train community, people who live in neighborhoods. And so we said, oh, wait, it's not happening inside the prisons. There's this organization called Friend of a Friend, and it is sponsored by, what's the name of that Quaker organization? Is it American Friends Services or something like that? And they have Friend of a Friend where they go into the prison and they do like mentor program. And this woman, Dominique Stevenson, runs the Friend of a Friend program. And she went to the judiciary, which funds a lot of conflict management in Maryland. It's called MACRO. She went to MACRO and said, we want mediation training in prison. Well, there's no trainers in Maryland that were like, oh, yeah, we'll go in. And the deputy director of MACRO said, you need to call Erricka because she would probably want to go in and do it. And so I got involved in these meetings, and we were able to set it up and go in. We did it for free. And normally this would have been a training contract of like $12,000. And instead we went into Jessup was the first place we went in, and we did it for free. And we trained about 30 inmates and then 3 women who were, so it was Dominique Stevenson, Mama Kay, and Mama Rashida also went inside, and they went through the training as well. And so it was just, like, I literally cried on the first day because normally we're supposed to have 20 participants. And what happened was, they messed up something about, the list of people who were getting signed up. And these men came in. I have never seen people so prepared for a training. They had their notebooks, their pens, their attitudes, their coochies was on straight. Like, they was ready, And I got there, and I was like, this is way too many people. Like, this is not good. And everything in my spirit and in my bones just could not turn anybody away and make them have to say 12 of these men had to leave. And so I went out in the hallway, I pulled Dominique out, and I said, this is not what I'm supposed to do, but I'm not turning away these men. And so we're going to roll with 30 men, and this is what's going to happen, and it'll be fine. The universe will take care of it. And I literally got choked up and cried while I was saying it to her because I could feel it, all through me that this is what I was supposed to be doing. And the pain of the thought of turning people away, I had never felt that before. Normally I'm like, no, I told y'all 20, y'all need to send some people home, So this wasn't that kind of thing. And it was beautiful because it turned out one of the dudes that would have gotten turned away ended up coming home the next year. He became an AmeriCorps member at the Baltimore City Community Mediation Center. And so now he is doing his second year of service, doing intake when mediations come in. And he wouldn't have, so he went from being in prison, becoming a mediator, coming home, working on 33rd and Greenmount, doing this work, creating peace in Baltimore.
That's excellent. So there's several parts to this program, is what I'm hearing, because I know you do reentry work, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So the reentry, it's kind of, that's one of the reasons also that we can legitimize going inside is to just make people on the inside more aware of what mediation was, because what happens is we do have a partnership with the Department of Corrections where mediators around the state are able to go into different prisons, and if somebody is coming home within 6 months to a year, they can have conversations with people on the outside to either rebuild bridges or to, have difficult conversations to reconnect with children or just to make plans about what it's really going to look like when you come home. So they can have up to 3 mediations in prison. No COs are in the room with them. It's still confidential. They can still have whatever arguments they need to have. They can talk about how to stay clean when they come home, like whatever it is they need to talk about. And so we have a website up now, reentrymediation.org, and there we have enough data that shows that people who use mediation before they come home, they aren't just less likely to go back to prison, they are less likely to even get rearrested when they come home because they've had a chance, because relationships matter when it comes to recidivism. And so mediation helps to repair and rebuild relationships. And so, people who don't use mediation before they come home are more likely to even get arrested again.
So that's a perfect way to end, and then to pick up again on Wednesday. There's so much more to get into, but we're running out of time very quickly. I definitely want to thank you for waking up and feeding the people with us, and we still have a lot of the interview left, and I want to get into that on Wednesday and continue our conversation, if you would be so kind as to wake up with us again.
I'm very excited to. Thank you so much.
And I'm telling you, we're going to go in Wednesday. You notice I just was chilling, listening today. We're going to go in deep Wednesday. You already know. You already know.
I'm going to be ready.
I never heard Changa so quiet before.
Wow.
Exactly. She hasn't either.
No, I really haven't. It was a little bit scary, I have to say. I was like, what the hell?
Is he sneaking up on me?
Right. Then I had to fix my perception. Like, wait a minute, maybe he's just honoring my space and listening and observing.
See, there you go. Fix your face.
Right. Fix your perception. SOS Radio, wake up and feed the people. Thank you, Ericka.
All right, have a good one.
You too.